everybody, it's Romania Black. It's episode 44 of March Comes In Like a Lion. This episode snuck up out of nowhere, and what can we say? This episode snuck up on me. I was like, what are we recording today? Oh, it's the last episode. I don't know where to begin, I guess, with this series, but it's been 44 weeks, almost a year, like 10, 11 months of, I guess 10 months, honestly, of watching this series. And I didn't know what I was getting into when I started it. I kind of had the suspicion, based on the title of it, March Comes In Like a Lion, that this series was not going to be sports heavy, but it had been on the poll for a very, very long time. For a couple of years, this series had been on the poll. And everybody kept saying, no, it's a sports anime, but it's more than that. And I was like, okay. And so I do feel like it is a justifiable sports anime. There is shogi in it. It seems appropriate. Over in the Discord, Shimoyama, who's one of the patrons over on Patreon in the Discord, has been sharing over the past couple weeks, like, about Hambu, who I think is their name, and they're like one of the big shogi players who's won all of the titles, like all 7 major titles. And I was like, that's so cool. And then some people were talking about how Soya and Rei are based off of him, and I thought that was so cool. And just seeing pictures of actual shogi players, and there was one thing that Shimoyama shared that was like a stadium, like a baseball stadium, filled with people watching these shogi games. And I was like, that's so awesome. And like the kid that won the child tournament said they want to be a pro player when they grew up, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, this series has felt a lot to me like Run with the Wind, in a sense, because, which I've been going back and rereading the novel for Run with the Wind now, but it very much feels like a real story. Like, Rei's story feels real. It doesn't feel like an anime. It doesn't feel made up and fictional. It feels like Rei feels like a real character that we all can connect to. And it's emotional. And his journey, I've been talking about it in the comments with people the last several weeks, that the one beautiful thing about March Comes In Like a Lion is that it's so impactful, but in the simplest of ways and in the subtlest of ways. Like, we were talking about, this one commenter and I were talking about how Rei has overcome all these hardships and has grown so much over the past 44 weeks. But there's never been like a big epic, change that's happened to him, or this big revolutionary moment. They've all been little small moments, but then they start to kind of create a domino effect, and they start to add up and snowball. And then you look at Rei last week's episode where he sees Coda again, and you think back on episode 1, and that's when it hits you just how far he's come. And you're like, wow. And the manga's still ongoing. So it's like, there's so much more growth yet to go, but I'm not going to follow up with the manga, and I've said that. I'm going to stick to it for now, but it is going to be really sad to start a new sports anime next week when this series is now caught up with the anime, and I'm going to hold out hope for Shaft for a wee bit, and then maybe by next year I'll poll people and be like, do you want me to read the manga or not? So we'll give Shaft a little time to get its act together, to finish the Puella Magi Madoka movie, and to get on this. So I know people in the comments will be like, they're not going to get on it for years, and we'll just see where it goes, right? We'll see where it goes. But maybe if I get free time, who knows? If there's enough demand for the manga, we'll see. But Shaft has done such a beautiful job with this show that I think I would regret if I was impatient and read the manga and then I didn't do a reaction to the anime. I would regret it. I would regret it so much. So who knows? We'll see where the wind takes us. But this story has been beautiful. If you've watched my New Year's update video by the time this episode comes out on Patreon, if you haven't watched my New Year's update video, you should go watch it, because I do a recap of the top shows of the year, and I included March because I was finishing it this 1 week after New Year's. So I included it in my tops, and you may not be surprised where it is. I love this show so much, and I've been raving about it and encouraging people to watch it. And we've talked about this in the comments. I feel like the people that have watched it are like, no, I get it. It's amazing. And the people that haven't watched it, maybe they're like, oh, is it going to be boring? I don't know. I just encourage people to watch it. I think this is definitely a gateway anime that if people are trying to get into anime, this'll do it. It's so absolutely gorgeous. And this journey through Ray's struggles and Hina's struggles, it's been tearful and emotional. And I used to, like, years ago when I started the channel, I was like, I don't cry. It's gonna take a lot to get me to cry. And then there was shows like, there was one episode of Banana Fish that made me cry, technically two, but one that really made me cry of Banana Fish. And there was like a couple episodes, like 1 or 2 episodes of Violet Evergarden where I sobbed my eyes out. But other than that, before getting to this show, other than that, I was like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm pretty good at holding in my emotions, and this show kind of broke that record. But they weren't sad tears. A lot of them were happy tears, and like tears of joy and tears of feeling validation for Ray. Like I said, Ray feels like not only an audience surrogate at times, but feels like somebody you want to root for. And so when they have those small victories, it feels so personal. And the manga really, and I'm sure the manga captures that as well, but the mangaka really, she's so amazing. And I can't sing this series praises enough. You all know that from watching me the last several weeks, but I just absolutely love this series. I'm sad this is the last episode. I don't want to give it up, but thus is the nature of reactions, right? It's been a journey. I hope you all follow me on the next journey that I go with whatever sports anime. As I'm recording this, the poll hasn't come out yet for the replacement, but by the time you are watching this on Patreon, the replacement series has already been chosen. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, though, if you haven't seen the replacement poll or watched the January update video, you should go do that. But I decided after this series, I wanted to watch a short sports anime to get like a little palate cleanser, to do like a little short series, and then do a poll of all the big ones, include all the major ones on there, and do that. But after watching this for 44 weeks in a row, I feel like I need just like a little hiatus from the long running sports anime, and then we can dive back into it. So, but God, this was such a great choice. Those of you, if you were one of the ones on Patreon that voted for March Comes In Like a Lion, bless you. Bless you. All of my love, because I'm still in awe of how amazing this show is. And I will never tire of singing it praises, because it's just been such a beautiful journey. And I'm excited to see how this series goes out. But I'm also I know it's going to be bittersweet, because I'm going to want season 3 like next week, and it's not going to be here. And I've already planned out on the schedule on my channel to have a sports anime come after this. So the manga is going to have to wait, and we'll see if it gets a lot of requests or what people are itching for. So in any case, I'll still answer your comments up until after this episode, and I'll still answer your comments on other things. As long as people don't spoil the manga, I'll answer people's comments, and we can talk about the show all day long. But I'm really excited to dive into this final episode. Real quick before we go, I want to give a shout out to all those on Patreon over on the philanthropy tier who have been so supportive and who have supported the channel. Especially a special thanks to all those on the channel who have supported me with this series, those on YouTube that have subscribed for this series, those on Patreon that are watching for this. I hope you join me on my next sports anime adventure. But if not, a special thanks to you all. And to our philanthropy tier, to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, to Bryant Reed, to Damage3245, to Dana, to Destiny Marie, to Devorin, to Danny Donmai, to Danger Zone, to Destiny Marie, I've already said that one, Ichu Eric, I need to just look at my list, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, Liam Pulls, El Freya, Linden, as well as Matthew Pounfinier, Murphew, Nancy Massart, Nicholas, Karen I, as well as Sunspots, Shimoyama Trails, Translucent Men, Starman AA, and Maroney W. All of my love to all of you that have supported me watching this show. It's just chef's kiss. So yeah, it's been nearly 10 minutes. Might as well get on this, shall we? I've been honestly simultaneously wanting to watch this episode so quickly after the last episode, but I've been holding off just long enough, as long as I possibly can. So what can we do? But in any case, we are going to start episode 44 of March Comes In Like a Lion. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. Oh! Oh. 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 Oh, is this Koda's wife? Yes, it is Koda's house. Okay. And that's Kyoko's mom. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh. Oh. Wow, so he did come over. Oh. Oh. Mmm. Wow. When I was alone. Oh, wow. Wow. And Ayumu looks like her, yeah. Wow. Hmm. Wow. It looks like a storybook, like you can't see their lips moving. Wow. Wow. Not having any of the dialogue. Wow. Oh. Wow. Mellow. I love the framing where the black, it's like so narrow, the lens. He's an adult. Wow. Ah. Wow, that difference. Ooh. Ah. Yeah, exactly. Oh. Wow, sound reasoning. Oh my God, yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, Coda. Wow. Wow. Oh. 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 Hmm. Wow. Hmm. Oh, wow. That's so good. Oh my God. Seriously. Seriously. Oh. There we go. Oh. 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 Mm. I love this. The art. Hmm. Wow. Well, I mean, we're going to talk about this. No. Just a good kid. Oh. Oh. Damn. Oh. Wow, and the realism there. Yeah, the footage. Wow. And they pushed him out, basically. Damn. Oh. Oh. Mm. Oh, the piano. Oh, all of that. Oh. Oh. Shut up! Stop! Don't make me cry! Don't do that! A show don't make me cry already. We're not even halfway through the episode. Oh. Damn it. Oh. 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 Oh my God. You guys. Wow. Oh my God. That was just. Oh. That was just art. That whole thing. I was worried we weren't gonna get the OP, and I was like, damn it. It sucks we don't get the OP one more time. But oh. Okay. Okay. Fine. Damn. Oh. Mm. Aw. Oh, I'm gonna miss this, OP. How dare this show make me cry within the first 8 minutes? How dare it? That was so good. Oh. I'm glad we got that chapter, that episode, right after the meeting with Coda. Oh. Oh my God. Child of Marchtown. What a perfect chapter for the end of the season. There we go. Yeah. Oh my God, he's so huge. Shit. He's huge. supposed to grow that fast and that soon. Ah! Oh, he did it. Oh. 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 Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Oh. Oh. I want to go to one of these. I want to do this. Yes. Man, that looks so good. Aw, that's so cute. Yeah, aw. Oh. Mmm. Aw. Yes, from a dream to a goal. Oh, okay. That's why he's gone there. Oh, is he doing soccer or baseball? I guess. Well, infielder. Yeah. Yes. There you go. Oh. Oh, I love it. If you're that tall at middle school, Takahashi, you'll be fine. So good. Oh. Mm. Oh. 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 What a nice guy. Yes, the children of Marchtown. Aw. 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 I want him to invite Hina and Ray to a game. I love that the food in Japan is regional. Like, it's just in certain places, which it's kind of like that in America, but not really. Like, I love that kind of culture. Oh. 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 Yeah. Yes. Yes. Oh. Oh, Ray is the best. Literally. And this is like the OP with the cherry blossoms. Yes. Nice. Aww. Aww. So cute. Aww. 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 Ha ha. Aww. Aww. The secret phrase! That's so long! Like, why would you? Oh, you know. Aww. Oh, like him as a kid. Oh. Oh. He's so tall compared to his parents. Oh. Yeah. Nice. Oh. 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 Uh. 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 Ah! Oh my god. Oh my god, yeah. Right. Ooh. Oh no! Oh no! Oh. Oh. Oh, it's French. Oh. An adult like Bob. Oh no! Ah! I mean, you have to go with the Bob. What's Ray gonna say? Oh no! Ah! What's Ray gonna say? Oh my god. Ah! Oh, come on. Let Ray see it. No, come on. No, that can't be the end. There has to be an end credit scene. You can't do that to us. That ended too soon. They have to have an end credit scene. There's no way. I love the idea of her shedding her childhood hair. Everybody gets the bob when they're a kid, right? I got mine in 5th grade, so. And then I grew it back out, and then I cut it back off again, so. Everybody gets it, right? God, I love this OP so much. This ED is amazing. There has to be an end credit song. There has to be an end credit scene. There has to be an end credit scene. You cannot tell me there's not. Okay, come on. Come on now. Oh no. Just resign yourself to it and come out. Oh. And he thinks she's beautiful. Oh. Oh. No. Oh, girl, he's into older girls anyway. Oh. Oh. Oh my God. Oh. Oh no. Oh no, he's in love. Oh, he loves he's in love. Oh my God. Oh, and then Chika Umino, the mangaka. Her doing the end card. Yes. Oh. Oh. Okay, look. If you wanted me to really read the manga. Son of a bitch, no! I'm so torn. How? I know my dogs. I know. I want to watch the anime adaptation, but I was like, how long's it been since they did this? Oh, it's been 8 years, really? I guess it's been 6 years since this season has ended. I'm like, ugh. I keep thinking they're gonna make another one, so I don't know. I don't. I don't want to commit to the manga and it not live up to the expectations of Shaft, so I don't know. I'll leave it to Patreon. If Patreon begs me to read the manga, then I'll read it. But if they're just like, you can wait, then I'll just wait. But we'll see. If enough people on Patreon beg me to read the manga, then I guess in March maybe I will. I don't know. But if people are like, nah, just wait till Shaft comes out with the other season, then we'll go from there. But I did go ahead and look, and I was like, where does this... I basically would be starting at volume 9 and going from... I saw that the Children of Marchtown was like chapter 89, and that's all I looked at. I just wanted to see where the Children of Marchtown chapter was. I didn't look at anything else. I was just like, where is it? And it's like, oh, it's volume 9. So I'd have to read volume 9, and then it goes up to like volume 17, and it's still ongoing. So we'll see. If enough people like beg for it between now and March, then I have some time freed up by then we'll see. Because I have a feeling I'm gonna have withdrawals. I have a feeling of March. I'm gonna have withdrawals, even if it was like once a month or something. I don't know. Just damn it. This episode was really good. I liked the extra bonus chapter, which was the other house. I appreciate that. Is it just me, or did Hina's haircut look kind of like the mom from Coda and them's house, right? I'm like, is that some kind of Freudian thing? Because you kind of like, you like women that kind of look like your mom. Is that like a Freudian thing happening? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, but man, Ray sure likes Hina's haircut. Ray had I feel like him seeing Hina, like, I feel like Ray has inadvertently, without even realizing it, been attracted to Hina this entire time, because like the scene where he's sitting there and she's asleep in the room and he's just like staring at her. Like, I feel like that was subconsciously like him having attraction towards her, but his body and mind hadn't quite connected the dots yet. But the moment he saw that hair and saw how pretty she looked, that felt like that looked to me like a sexual awakening within Ray, where he was just like, oh my God, no, I actually am kind of attracted to her. Like, I feel like Ray just being like, yes, I really like that. It looks really good on you. Like, for the first time, Ray's attraction towards Hina wasn't just like spiritual or on like a deeper level. It was, now it's like there's a physical attraction. And I'm like, bless him. Ray's growing up. Oh, it's so tempting. Y'all just have to speak up, I guess. Anyway, if y'all speak up loud enough, I'll hear you, I'm sure. But I want to talk about this. I brought Whiteboard Kun out because why not round out the series with Whiteboard Kun? So we have the mom and her talking about she was hanging up the laundry for everybody and picked up the receiver, and then someone said hello and it was Ray. Is now a good time? And she thought, oh, it could have been like a scam. And so then it was like, it's me, Ray. I feel kind of sad for the mom because she's clearly by herself. And it seems like she just, her kids are off at school or have a job. Like Kyoko has a temp job and Koda's off, playing shogi. So it feels like she's very alone and isolated, which I feel bad for her. But then she doesn't seem, she seems sad about it, but not like overwhelmingly sad. Like, it almost feels like a relief to her in a way. It's weird. It's like a weird feeling from her, right? And then Ray showing up, the boy who had lived up here in my home up until a few years earlier. So it's been a couple of years, which is crazy how much time flies, right? And at first when he's in the doorway, he didn't look like he'd grown that much, but then you see him sitting down there with Taro, which that part got me. When he's sitting there down there petting Taro, he looks a lot bigger there. Like, you can see how much he's grown petting that dog. And when he gave the dog a damn hug, that's what got me, because the dog is like the one creature in that house that showed Ray unequivocal love. And the fact that damn dog like grew up with him, showing him love, I'm like, and when he said live a long life, I was like, I was just like, how could you do this show? How could you make me cry? Why would you do that? Just instant sorrow and wallowing. Like I dogs aging makes me so sad. I have 2 dogs that are in the prime of their life, and we're not gonna talk about anything else. All he does is sleep there. I had a dog that she died when she was 15, and it's gonna make me so sad seeing Taro in the box, and he's like, live a long life, because there's a chance when he comes back she's not gonna be there. Don't you do that, show? That's just so cruel. How dare you? There's definitely a theme in this episode of time marching on, whether it's Taro aging, which is so sad, or Ayumu and Kyoko growing up and moving out of the house, whether it's Takahashi going off to school, whether it's Hina getting the haircut. Like, the whole theme of this episode was the idea of time marches on, time moves on, whether you like it or not. What are you going to do about it, sort of situation. And one thing I really loved about the other house is that the animation, it's all still. It's still a freaking work of art, right? Shaft didn't even have to try. They just made it look so good. But no lips move. It read like a storybook. Ayumu's at prep school, and the mom looks a lot like Ayumu. Ayumu looks a lot like his mother. And I guess you could say Kyoko's a temp worker. I guess you could say is like, oh my God. But yeah, they just sat there. And I love the way that they played with shadows in this, like her coming in and out of the dark room. And she's like, I was relieved he came to visit when I was alone. And the way that the light, like it shows the light cutting through the darkness, and it shows her leaving like the dark kitchen, and then it shows like the 2 of them, and they're like just both sitting there quietly, like not saying anything. She's like, if he had come when the 2 of them, like, what did she say there? If Kyoko and Ayumu were here, this living room would have become cold in an instant. Like, oh my God, like that's just insane. Just like it did back then. And then it's like this beautifully stylistic piece, and you cut back to them and it's just normal. And so here's the thing. If Koda or Kyoko come and see the Crescent Moon shop and ask like where the stuff is from, and she says, oh, Ray came to visit, then I feel like that could be a way for Kyoko to find out where Ray is and track them down. But I don't know if that will end up happening in the manga. I guess it's a possibility. But she's like, in this house, no one speaks his name anymore. What's crazy is Ray, when he's sitting there in the chair, he looks so much older. Like, you can see how long his torso is and how much he's growing. Like, it's so crazy to see him, like, growing up with us. That's just wild to me that the show does that. But it's one of those things, like, nobody talks about him, which is so insane that he lived there for years. But I get it. I get it. I have family that I grew up with my whole life, and they don't want anything to do with me anymore. And it's like, you don't think about it, you don't think it's possible, but then it happens and you're like, damn, okay. And it's so crazy how easily it can happen and how easy it does happen. And it's just the wildest thing, right? And so he apologizes for not being able to visit in a long time. And he says, I was worried about you since you never came by. I like the mom's like, I was gonna say that, but I stopped myself because he saw right through it. Like the mom was like, well, I was gonna say I was worried about you, but then Ray, like, you can't see his eyes through the glasses. They're almost like opaque, but you can tell that she's like, I'm not gonna lie to this kid because he knows that I've not been thinking about him all the time. I mean, like, she's like, I'm not gonna lie to him. What's the point in that, right? And then him just sitting there with the smile and the light shining through. I love that she describes him as mellow. Like, it's just this, yeah, he's so different than episode 1. Episode 1, the thought of him going back to this house would have traumatized him. Episode 1, the thought of him having to go back to that house and possibly be in that same environment was like a source of anxiety. And here, he not only made the decision to go back and see her, but he's sitting there like so confident in himself, like everything's fine. He forgives her. It's just, because we talked about the mom way back earlier on in the season that she just kind of let everything happen. And here she kind of throws Koda under the bus and she's like, he didn't do shit either. And so, but with Ray, he's kind of like, well, it is what it is. And he's like, who am I to tell you that what you did was right or wrong? So let's just move forward. And that's so big of him. Honestly, it is. He's much more mellow now. He's become an adult. Which still, he's 18 years old. That's crazy that, you know, he's an adult. And then she says, I can't believe he's the same age as Ayumu. My son hasn't even changed and he's still a child. Which she believes them gamers, they ain't adults. But she talks about this part here. My children were no match for him at a fairly early stage. And she talks about how much anyone could see the amount of practice he did was unbelievable. But if they didn't want to lose to him, they would have to practice even more than he did. And we talked about this way back at the beginning, that the concept here is that Ray is just a good kid. He's just good. He's just a good egg. He's always been a nice kid. And he works earnestly and he works hard towards his goal. And so what's so interesting is to see it from her perspective, because we've always wondered, up until the latter part of this season, if Ray even wanted to play shogi, if he liked it and enjoyed it. And we found the answer that yes, he did. He initially didn't realize that he liked shogi, but he's liked shogi. And he's found his place within the world and everything. But to see it from the mom's perspective is so interesting, because it almost seems like when you look at it from her perspective, you're like, yeah, Ray liked. It's like she believes he liked shogi. Ray at the time thought he was just doing it because he wanted to pay them back, and this was his way of doing it. But what I think is so interesting is she talks about the kids, that in order for Kyoko and Ayumu to catch up or beat him, they would have to work harder than him. And what's so interesting about that is that she's like, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. And part of the reason is they don't have any incentive to. They don't like shogi. I think what I loved about it was she's like, could they do it? No, they couldn't. And then we see him playing it. So he silently embodied sound reasoning in his presence. Like, she talks about how she noticed how obsessed and into the game that Ray was. And she's like, my kids don't like the game. So it doesn't matter how hard they practice. They're not going to practice as much as Ray because they don't like it and they don't see the benefits. So their heart is never going to be in it more than Ray's. So there's no point. And that, because that's something I had made, for Kyoko being jealous, I was like, well, if you want to beat Ray, just practice more than him. But she knows there's no point, because her passion for shogi is never going to match Ray's, because she knows it won't. And the mom knows that it won't. So it's like, it's kind of like I played basketball for 1 year because I wanted to do it. My mom was like, well, you can do it. I played basketball. My mom was really good at it, and she coached it for years. I suck at basketball. I like playing it, but I'm not good at it. And so, if I were in the same position as Kyoko, looking back now, and if some kid came to my family that was like earnest and really talented at basketball and practiced every day and was really passionate about it, I could never personally be as good as them because I don't have the passion. If you don't have the passion, you're never going to work as hard as somebody that has the passion. And that's just how it is. So if you don't have the drive, you can practice all you want, but if you don't have that drive and that inner light guiding you towards that goal, it's not going to make a difference. And the mom kind of realizes that. She sees how obsessed Ray is, and she's like, my own children's weaknesses made them lose their equilibrium. She's like, my kids didn't have the strength and endurance to do shogi like Ray, and they collapsed into pieces. And yeah, it kind of, now looking back from the mom's perspective, it makes sense. It's like, you would imagine that. If you watched your kids that didn't have the passion for this sport the same as Ray, there's no way they could practice to match him. So why bother? But then when you find out that Ray, his entire life seems to mirror Koda's, it's no wonder that Koda took a liking to Ray, because Ray reminds him of himself, and his kids don't do that. The son I never had, like the stereotypical, he's like the kid I never had. And so then what gets me, he's like, they collapsed into pieces. And he says, when my own children turned against me, I was lost. At that point, it was interesting because She kind of reminded me in that moment of the teacher in the classroom that let the one girl bully Hina. And the teacher was like, well, I can't control these kids and I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm just going to let it go. She reminded me of them. And I like the mom's character. There's nothing wrong with her. I mean, Ray seems congenial with her, but she just like, I don't know what to do. She's like, how can I control my kids? What am I going to tell them? And Coda, I love that she says, my husband silently watched it all unfold. I put a lot of blame onto Coda, and I know that Ray is fine with Coda, and Ray doesn't, hold any grudges against him. Good for Ray, the patron saint of Marchtown. But I feel like Coda, he just kind of turns a blind eye, and I'm like, you could have done something. You could have said something. You could have gave your kids the time of day rather than hold them up to this like impossible standard, because all it did was just crush them even further. So I put a lot of blame on Coda for a lot of this, honestly. I mean, Kyoko and Ayumu are responsible for their own decisions, but Coda's their dad. He should have done something. And he said people who need other people to motivate them will eventually come up against a brick wall. And I like that as he's saying that, poor little Ray is over there like, please don't say this to get me ostracized within this family. Please stop. But it's like, I do feel like what Coda says in that moment is very true, because it's one of those things like I coach speech, and we tell people all the time on the team, we're like, you have to want it. We can tell you night and day to practice. We can tell you what to do, but you have to want it. You have to want to win. And if you don't want to win, then you are going to hit that brick wall. And if you're doing it for someone else and not yourself, and that's kind of the crazy thing, because him saying that to me shows that at the end of the day, it took us till the end of season 2 to figure it out, but Ray is playing shogi for himself. And what's so crazy is the journey that Ray goes on, because at the very beginning of the series, when we first watched Ray, he was like, I'm playing shogi because I want to pay my father back. My foster father that took me in, I want to pay him back. And I want to like be able to live on my own. And that's why I'm playing shogi. And I'm doing it so that I can help out my foster family and stay away from Kyoko and make things better in the house. And at the very beginning, Ray was kind of miserable and hitting a brick wall because he was doing it he was using other people to motivate him. He's like, I'm doing this for Coda. I'm doing this for Kyoko. And then later he's like, well, I'm doing this for Shimada or Nikaido. And over the course of the seasons, he comes to realize that he's playing shogi not to benefit other people, and he's not being motivated by other people, but he's doing it for himself. And because he enjoys it, he enjoys the world that it brings him to. And that's when he like fully comes into his own. And that's exactly what Coda's talking about in this moment, that if you have to be motivated by someone else making you do it, then you're not going to succeed. That was his view. And then he, unable to look at their weak selves, my children became caught up in enjoyments within their reach. There is a lot of shade towards video games and cell phones and screens in this episode. Like basically saying like, oh, well, because they couldn't dedicate and be motivated themselves to play shogi, they just kind of buried themselves into video games and phones and things that are like immediate gratification, but that they don't have to work towards. And I was like, ooh, the shade. The shade! And then Ayumu declared, being able to make an effort is a talent too. And that's when Coda gave up on Ayumu being a pro player. So, because Ayumu's saying that, being like, oh, being able to care and put in the work is a talent. And that is, oof. That's basically Ayumu saying that he doesn't have the skill to work towards improving himself. And that is a rough thing to say, but there are people that believe that. And you know what? Not everybody in the world is able to put in that dedication. That's why there's only so many people at the top of a sport or at the top of their game, because not everybody is going to be able to put in that work. And you could argue it's mind over matter. I would believe that. to an extent. I mean, maybe not something like basketball, because if you're 5 foot nothing, then you got a harder road to climb than a 7 foot giant. But in the game of shogi, yeah. And I feel like at that point, Ayumu is just frustrated, and he's like, I'm not going to be as good, and I don't care. And then, God, the part where Kota just kind of chuckles at that, and like the look in his eye that is absolutely stone cold. He's like, oh, well, then you're not going to be a professional shogi player if you can't even put in effort to practice. Oof. And I'm sure that Kota does feel, I love everything Shaft does stylistically in this episode is amazing, but I love just the fact that you see the boards like blocking up against the shogi game. And I mean, Kota is definitely, he reads to me as like the sports parent, like the dad who was like really great at a sport and he wants his kids to be great too. And I wouldn't say that Kota's trying to vicariously live through his kids, but because he sees so much similarity in Rei and himself, was he trying to live vicariously through Rei and his ability? Maybe. I mean, I'm glad that Rei has a good relationship with him now, but oof. And then we see Rei practicing. Being around that boy, they realize people who wanted to reach a certain place had to pursue it to that extent. You had to want it. And neither of them really wanted it. It was just to appease their dad. And then she says, I always thought only a small handful of people can become what they want to be. And that's her in the picture. She kind of like has a hair similar a little bit to Kyoko's, but it shows then like it shows her marrying Kota in that moment. So I don't know what she wanted to be and if she had other dreams or ambitions, but she's like, I never thought about what you have to do to become something. And so that boy's situation was so dreary as a weight on my chest. So to her, maybe to her, she never really had any aspirations. She kind of just married Kota and that's it. And that's not to judge her or anything. Like, I know people that they're just happy being a mom. And I know people that they're just happy working a 9 to 5 and they don't have any other aspirations. And some people might view that as sad, but other people might be like, no, that's just them living their truth. That's all they want. Some people are pretty simple. Some people are simple. They don't want like crazy celebrity goals or things like that. They just want to live a life and that's it. And to me, I feel like Kyoko and Ayumu's mom, she's just simple. And that's all there is to it. Like her just doing the laundry and getting the dinner ready at the end of the scene. She's just happy being a housewife and that's her life. It almost felt like the mom didn't know what else she would do with her life. So she's like, this is what I got and I'm okay with this. But then I feel like her simplicity is what passes on to her kids, and Kota's shogi mentality does not pass on to their kids, which is frustrating to Kota. And then when he sees Rei, who is like him, it's like he kind of latches onto it, right? That's so wild. And then she talks about how Kota, she's like, I finally came to a realization one day. My husband had a similar childhood as that boy. And so I thought I understood, but I really didn't. Looking past shogi, out of all the people in the house, the person my husband related to the most wasn't a family member, but him. So yeah, it's like the Kota related most to Rei out of everyone, not even his own kids, because his children are more like her. Oh. And then a lot of the imagery we've seen in the past is there. But he was wholeheartedly dedicated to shogi. But then you see him walking Taro, and I was like, he walked Taro, and he was a little kid, and just don't make that dog die. Don't make that dog die in this show. If I read this manga and that dog dies, I'll be heartbroken. No, thank you. Do not do that to me. But he like did housework and stuff, and she thought that maybe like, and that made her kids suffer all the more because she, to the mom. At first, she's like, maybe he was being petty and he was just doing the classwork to get at them and to like hold it over them. But then the more they're around Rei and child Rei with all the papers around him and the little apron on. No, Rei's just a good kid. And it makes her and Ayumu and Kyoko realize that his goodness and his kindness reveals how unkind they can be. And that's kind of the scary thing. The thing is that when you're around somebody who's super nice and kind and you realize that you're not like that, it makes you think, am I horrible? Does this mean I'm a bad person because I'm not good like them? And that's a slippery slope, right? Because that can lead you to some dark places. And it seems like that's exactly what happened with Ray. And they're like, why is he such a good boy? Why didn't my kids turn out like that? What were the differences between the ways that his mother raised him and how I raised my kids? And here's the thing. I mean, there is definitely, she's like, did I fail in raising my children? And here's the thing. The crazy part is that there is, to an extent, there is an effect that parents have on kids. Like, I would argue, based on what we see in these scenes, like, Ayumu has the video games. His room's full of toys. Kyoko has her cell phone, and she's got instantly, like fashion and all this. So you could argue that her kids are kind of spoiled, materialistically. Not through love, because they feel unloved by their dad, and they feel like their home is isolating. But they live like the suburban dream. They have a nice house. They have enough money to get them whatever they want. And it's kind of vapid and empty. That's the thing. But they're kind of spoiled. And then you have Ray, who literally got to go to his parents' and sister's funeral and had to deal with losing his entire family, immediate family. And, that would alter a person and make them great. And then he gets brought into this household. And so he feels grateful to them. And he does all these chores and everything. So it's very much a Cinderella scenario, right? But that doesn't mean that the mom is a failure as a mother. It's just how it is. And I know people that grew up in a bad household that are the nicest people in the world. And I know people that grew up with everything that they could possibly ever want, and they're assholes, and their parents are nice people. So it's like, at least to our knowledge. So you just don't know. Like, genetics play a role, and environment plays a role, and there's nature versus nurture. But at the end of the day, sometimes if people are assholes, they're just assholes, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I feel bad that the mom questions, what did she fail to do? And she's like, is he just playing the role of a good boy since he's a freeloader? And no, but then she looks at him with Taro, and that's what got me, is that he was sitting there playing with the dog, and he was just a good kid. Damn. I loved when they showed us the actual footage in real life of the places where this was filmed. I know some people have shared in the Discord, like, actual photography from being in those places, and that's so cool. And I love they incorporated that. If I go to Japan, I would love to see where this was filmed, the actual little town. But I love that she says, my children understood it, and so did I. We got that he was a good kid, and we took advantage of him. Which is so crazy, because the way that we took advantage, we pushed him away and we treated him shoddily and didn't give him a place to belong. And so he felt like he needed to move. The longer I'm around, the more strained everyone's relations will become, so I'll leave. But he didn't even say that. He just quietly left the house. And that's so crazy for her to say that, and then for us to know as the audience what we do about Ray and how he felt leaving. He felt like he was being a burden to them, and how he was the cuckoo in the nest, and how he didn't belong there. And then we get to the mom's perspective, and she confirms that for us, but it wasn't Ray's fault. It was their fault for being inadequate as people. This whole first 8 minutes of this episode was just absolute art. And then, yeah, you get to see the nice house, all the nice furniture, how beautiful and clean it is. And then he's like, I'll come again. And she's like, what else could I say? And then him giving the dog the hug. The moment they look down at the dog and the dog looks old and he has that look on his face like, when I come back again, you might not be here. That's going to make me cry all over again. When he gives the dog a hug, I'm like, shut the frick up. And he says, live a long life. I can't. That image of him hugging Taro is the saddest thing in the world. How could you leave us on that, Shaft? How could you do that to us? And then she starts preparing dinner in the kitchen when he leaves. I like that there's the plants there with there's the 3 plants with the sprouts growing out of it that she has on the windowsill. And she says, as always, even if no one calls me, I stand here every day waiting. I make dinner and I wait for everyone. I feel sad for her. I feel sad for her because she does feel like she is a bit lonely. It's like a content loneliness, which seems like an oxymoron, but. And then she has the dream where Ray is her kid, and in the dream he's just like her other kids, sprawled out eating junk food, watching TV, and like talking back to her. And it sounds like it's sad in that case, but she's like, he's the same as my other 2 kids. And she's like, I was disappointed, but also profoundly relieved. Because I feel like in that case, she's like, if he blends in with my other 2 kids, he won't be isolated and he'll be loved. And that's such a kind of cool way to think about it, because on the outside, I feel like if we judged her, we'd be like, oh, well, your kids talk back to you and they eat junk food and watch TV. And like, shouldn't you, like, do you feel like, because she questions whether she's failed as a parent, but at the end of the day, they're all like kind of in this bubble together and they're still a family unit. And then if Ray matched that, it would create this cohesion amongst them. But the fact that Ray didn't match that pointed out their own inadequacies to them and made them feel, kind of frustrated with themselves. And if Ray had blended in with them and been like them, there wouldn't have been that tension. So it's so good. It's so freaking good. So yeah, then we have the intro. I was glad we got to see the intro at least one more time. So then we end. I like that we end on a child of Marchtown. This feels like such a poignant place to end the season. It's a turning point. Hina's starting high school. Takahashi's going off. They get to go to the little manjiyaki place. I definitely, and Kiriyama invited us. I love that Kiriyama is the one that brings them together. Because like we saw in last episode, like there was a little brief moment where Kiriyama was jealous that he thought that Hina, was sad that Takahashi was leaving. And he's like, there was a little twinge of jealousy. And so if Ray wasn't a good person like he is, then he could have just made it to where they didn't, meet up. And he's like, well, he'll just go on his way and be gone. And then it'll just be me and Hina. But that's not how Ray is. Ray's too nice for that. So he arranges this like one last time for them to go out to eat. And the manjiyaki, I know that's in Kuroko's basketball. They go there after several games and have that. I would love to have it if I go to Japan. It'd be really great. But yeah, it's like they've all get there. Takahashi's huge. Takahashi's in 8th grade. He's going on 9th grade. He's like 15 years old and he's freaking huge. Like, I think his coach at Koichi will be very happy to have him as a team member, right? And so everything's all, turning up daisies. Everything's turning up roses. You have Hina and Takahashi graduating. You have Ray. He's won the match. He's in B2. So basically, he won the match to become in B2, which is interesting. I kind of wanted to see that match, but maybe in the future we'll get to see more of it. And so it's a private baseball school that he's going to in Koichi. I like that we have like it looks like Momo that's there with the little honey bear, which is super cute. Maybe it's not Momo, maybe it's somebody else, but I love when he clinks the glasses and like he does it with such force and they're like, oh, okay. That part was really, really funny. But yeah, he's like and Takahashi talks about his grandpa is super excited that he knows Ray as a B-class shogi player. That food looks amazing. I would be so down for that. And I love that, like we've seen throughout the series, Takahashi draws inspiration from Ray, being like, well, you're a professional shogi player, so I'm going to be one too. And I love that Hina takes note that Takahashi's like building his goals. He's turning his dreams into goals. And that's what you got to do. You take your dream, you got to make it a goal. Like, how do you do that? What do you have to do? And so I like that Takahashi's reasoning is that I know this coach. He believes in me. He's helped me so far. He believes he can take us to the next level. So I'm going to follow him and get his guidance and make that a goal. And that's what he's working towards. And I like that Takahashi kind of admits, he's like, I'm moving to Tokyo and it's far away, but this is what I have to do to get what I want. And I like that Hina she's bittersweet about it, but she also, I kept wondering if she was going to say something about the bakery and it becoming a goal and her making that from a dream to a goal as well. But because both Takahashi and Ray kind of seem to be doing that as well. So he's like, there are a lot of infielders and the best players there. And out of dozens of schools, I want to raise my chances to get to the high school nationals, even if by a little. I'll watch that spinoff. If we can get an Ace of the Diamond, March comes in like a lion crossover, I'll be here for it. So I wanted to go where the coach was. I love it. I love the idea of him like offering to bring. I wish that America had more of like, we're kind of a melting pot. So we're like just a hodgepodge of so many different cultures. But I wish that we had more cultures like this, where it was very regional based. I know that that's kind of true. Like if you go into the Southwest part of the United States, there's a lot more cultural things that are just in tune to that region. And like if you go up north, there's more regional things. Like there are regional things in the US, but it doesn't feel kind of as localized as it does in Japan. And I think that's so cool that like each place in Japan has its own specialty. And I think that that's so neat. And I love the idea of him bringing his culture and Marchtown with him to where he's going. And I love that they're the children of Marchtown. It's so neat. I love that Ray looks so like romantic in this episode. And I don't know how else to describe him. He just looks romantic, like his gestures and him savoring this moment of the three of them together. Like it's so cool. Like I love it. And I love that Hina is so proud that Takahashi's taking part of his town with him. She's like, no matter where we go, that won't change. We're still children of Marchtown. And I love that he like wishes Hina good luck, and he's like, just keep putting all you've got into whatever you're doing. I'm with her. Like I felt like I wanted to cry throughout this episode. And then he's like, I'm gonna leave before the Cherry Blossom Festival. And then she talks about the stand that she's going to do with the sweet red bean soup. And then he's like, good luck. And I love just the three of them walking and her saying that time keeps moving forward. And as they're marching forward, time is moving forward. I want Hina and Ray to go watch one of his games. Like I want him to make it to Koshin and them to go watch it. That would be so cool. I wish that would happen, right? And then she's like, I'm so happy Ray invited me. And I got to talk to Takahashi a lot at the end. Girl, he is a keeper. Do not let Ray go. He is a keeper. He thinks of your needs above his own. Girl, he can't necessarily cook, but you got that in the bag. But he's sweet. He takes care of you. He's kind. He's funny. He's adorable. He's checking off all the boxes. Right? What more do you want from Ray? For him to be taller? No, Ray is so good. I love that. And I love that he just thinks of her and wants to make that day so great for her. And she's like, I'm glad we got to have manga together. It was great. So then they start the stand-up and everything seems to go really, really well. Ray doesn't seem to be with them, so maybe he was off playing shogi, but I like that they all have a lot of luck with their stand. And when Akari's like, you could go see Takahashi off. I like this felt like a changing moment. It felt like Hina officially letting go of the crush in this moment, because if she still had the crush on Takahashi, I feel she would cling to him just a little bit there at the end, and she'd want to go see him off and be like, wait for me when you're off at school, come back for me. But she doesn't do that. And I don't think it's not only because she doesn't necessarily have a romantic crush on him anymore, but I feel like he believes in her and she believes in him, and she doesn't need to go see him one more time to have that reassurance. And I think that's really, really sweet. I love that, honestly. It's really cute. And so she's like, I'll just work harder so I can make him proud. So she's decided to cut her hair. And I was like, when the aunt was like, a major life event, I'm like, your hair is a bob too. It's like a mid-length bob, but it kind of is a bob. But yeah, a major event in a young girl's life. I can't say, like, is she cutting her hair because a crush was quashed? And then of course Akari's like, she suddenly told me that last night. I feel like it's not only her letting go of her crush on Takahashi and starting anew, but it's like her starting a new school year, starting fresh, but also like her transitioning from being a child with a dream to an adult, to a young adult with a goal. I feel like that's part of that transition as well. But unfortunately, I can't say that I got that same haircut for that reason. I got a bob haircut when I was like 9. So I'd grown my hair out until 4th grade, I think, 4th or 5th grade. And then I got the exact same haircut that Hina has. I'm not kidding. The bob with the blunt bangs, I had the exact same haircut. I just had giant wire rim bug eye glasses as well. So I looked great. I looked like a prepubescent boy, essentially. But lo and behold, Ray's into it. So good deal. I also, have you ever watched the British show Fleabag? If you've not watched Fleabag, it's on Amazon Prime. Go watch it. It's hilarious. It's really good. It's a little raunchy, but if you can handle raunchiness, it's so funny. But there are 2 sisters in the show. And the one older sister, she like goes through like a midlife crisis and decides that like it's time to turn over a new leaf and chop the hair off to like end one chapter of her life or whatever. And the haircut ends up being atrocious. And the younger sister's like, I don't want to tell her that the hair looks so bad. But instead she's like, it's modern. And the younger sister's like, it's so bad. She's like, no, it's really chic. And she's like, it's so bad. And she's like, it's French. She's like, it's a French haircut. And thus it's okay. Although I thought that I love Hina's haircut. Not that the pigtails weren't cute, but she's like, I'm thinking of getting a haircut. And then of course Akari thinks that this is the legendary, the send off to her childhood self, taking a step forward as the new her. And the aunt's like, don't tell her that you think this. She'll be embarrassed. Of course, when she comes back and she's got the haircut, she thinks it went horrible. And she talks about how she went to the beauty salon, and she's like, I asked for an adult looking bob, and it was just an old woman at the salon, and she was like, yes. So what this scene made me think of, one of my really good friends. She was getting married, and she got married down in this little coastal town because that's where her mother-in-law had a place to stay. So they decided to have the wedding down there in this little coastal town. It was very, very cute. It was like a retirement community because her mother-in-law is significantly older. And so it was this retirement community. So we went to get our hair done for the wedding. I was one of the bridesmaids. And we just did my hair was longer at the time. So I just put it up in a little bun. It was something very, very simple. But my friend who got married got her hair done. And she had this really elaborate idea. Unfortunately, when you go to a salon that's stationed in a retirement community, the women that work there know how to do 2 haircuts, the bob and perms. So they did her hair and it looked fine, but for what she paid for it, I was like, I don't know if this is exactly getting your money's worth. But I know the feeling of when you go to an older woman that they only know so many haircuts and so many styles. And then of course her grandpa saying that she looks like a little bobblehead deity in the house, and she's like, no. And then Momo shows it, the Kokeshi doll, and Ina's like, I'm gonna die. Of course, then that's when Ray, I love that I was like, if we don't get an after credit scene, and as soon as they were like, come on out, let Ray see you. As soon as Akari said that, I was like, she's going to come out of that house and Ray is going to love her hair. And she steps out and we get to see her through Ray's eyes, and she looks beautiful. She has the hair, the eyes, everything. She looks gorgeous. And we see her look, and she does look so cute. And then we see him with the wide eye, and he's just completely enamored. There's little flashes of light above him. And then he's just And he just short circuits. Like, Ray has his sexual awakening right here and now. And she's like, oh, I should never have done it. And he's like, yes, it's nice. Like, he doesn't even hear what she's saying. She's like, I do look like the household deity with the bowl hairstyle. And he goes, yeah, it's nice. And he's just completely enamored. Like, he's short-circuited. She's like, what? And he's like, it looks great. And he just can't stop saying that he likes it. And Akari's like, oh. And Momo's like, why is Ray like this? And he's like, there's something about it. I really like it. And he's completely short-circuited. It totally suits you. And she's like, okay, thanks. I love it. And then we see Akari cooking, Momo coloring, and Ray is still going on and on about how he's just in love with her hair. And she's like, you're embarrassing me. And he's like, I think it's great. He's in love, and I love it. Oh, he's come so far. He's come so far from being this boy that wanted to be by himself and just play shogi and not have friends to falling in love with this girl and being a B rank player. And our boy Ray's grown up so much. I do love the end card. I love that the end card is done by the mangaka. I love it's all of them together. Them holding the cats. Taro's in the front row. Shut up. I love that everybody's there. It's so sweet. Like, all the characters we've gotten to know. The thing is, it feels like the end of a series, right? It feels like the end of a series. But the fact of the matter is that the manga's still ongoing. There's been 8 volumes since this come out. I'm like, Shaft, why don't you just animate a 3rd season, please? You could get 22 episodes out of a 3rd season easily, right? Just do it. Just do it. So, I don't know. My schedule's pretty full right now on the channel, but I will entertain looking at the manga if y'all request it enough. Maybe. I'll think about it. Anyway, I'm going to miss this show so much. And I want to thank you all for watching it with me. And I can't wait to talk more about it with you all. But yeah, if you want me to read the manga, just let me know. If I get enough feedback, I'll consider it. So anyway, I have loved this series so damn much. And I'm going to miss it. But we'll always have the reactions and discussions. And we'll always have the comment section. And we'll always have the Discord. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed my reactions to March Comes In Like a Lion. Next week, we start a new sports anime, and I'll see you all there. So have a great week. Take care. Stay safe. And I'll see you all again soon for more reactions. Bye-bye.